I guess you got to be in Arizona for that date, right?
Yeah, you do have to be in Arizona for that day. We're 3 hours from the border, so. Dude, you know what? We really need to get a new head. Well, we don't, like some your guys' fault, but I have not had a headshot done in
That's like me.
16 years. 16 years, man.
So let's see who's got the oldest one. So yours is 16 years.
Mine's not that old.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Mine is from when I worked at Checkered Flag.
Oh my god! Wow.
Yeah, so that was
I used to have another one.
2009.
Yeah, mine's definitely over 10. And we always talk about how we're going to update them. We never do.
I've tried to do it myself with a phone camera, having the kids take a couple of shots, standing in front of. But you need to go see like a professional photographer. It's horrible. You can't do it without.
Yeah, I took mine with a really nice camera. I set it up on the tripod and everything, and then used the timer. Took like 400 photos.
I'm gonna get one of these. I'm gonna use one of them.
That's what I do too, Jeff.
Yep. Just don't have to try to take photos of myself anymore.
Well, my problem is
my wife calls that grin on my on the headshot. She calls that my perv grin. So I usually have that grin.
It is sort of pervy looking.
I'll never look at that the same way again.
There we go.
No, I feel
like you're trying to undress me.
So I'll tell you why. So we have 40 seconds. So when I was 16, I used to be a mechanic at a gas station, a service station, and I was wrenching on a car, and I dropped a wrench, and it hit my two front teeth and knocked out my two front teeth. So I had, yeah, exactly. So one of my teeth is an implant, the other one is half fake. And it created like a little gap between my teeth. So I've always, even especially in high school, dude, I was really self-conscious about it. So I never really smiled with my teeth. And it's just, now it's force of habit more than anything else. So, So there you go. Background on Drew, on why he doesn't show teeth.
Whatever you say, Drew, whatever you say.
All right, 2 seconds, guys. Yeah, that's pretty.
It's one hell of an elaborate story to overcome your perv face.
Yeah, this is the kind of fun you're going to be in for today, folks.
I hope so.
This is what happens when you get Drew on. So
I have to change his bio on DealerRefresher.
Drew with the perv
man.
If I see perv grin on there, dude, I'm coming after somebody.
It's almost a crime not to do it now.
Yeah, speaking of coming after somebody, man, we got to spend some good time together in Texas.
No, that was great.
Yep. NADA, for clarification there.
Yeah.
What'd you guys get into?
Well, it was kind of interesting. So I was speaking on a panel that Insira was hosting, and we ended up staying in the same hotel with Insira. So I got to spend a lot of time with them, and invited Drew and Ryan. We invited Craig over as well for dinner one evening, and Craig couldn't make it. Hookheim, trying to do a little dealer refresh get together for a minute. But we got there and come to find out, like, all the Insira people know Drew and love him. It's just like this huge, like the whole lobby is just whole Insira Brick and Tech dealer refresh little love fest, I guess, kind of thing.
Dude, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
didn't expect to see all the Ancira people there. And so that was kind of, I walk in and I'm looking for Alex and he's sitting by the Ancira people. I walk up and they're like, "Hey, Drew, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm actually here to see Alex. But hey, how are you guys doing?" That was good times. Good times.
It's interesting too because you've been an advocate for Insira for a while, and they've sort of been, and maybe this is my dealer.com side coming out, but they've sort of been kind of this black sheep um, to me. But
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people don't know who they are.
well, yes, Insira originally, well, Cobalt, CDK, Synchro, now Insira. Um,
Yep. Yeah. But
the
everyone
people
still
there,
sees them as everyone still sees them as CDK, and they're kind of a black cloud. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, great people, great technology, great service provider, moving in the right direction.
yep. And what
Cool.
was also interesting to find out, Insira, the company that bought that tech from CDK, is one of the largest advertising agencies on the planet. And they represent like Chick-fil-A, Coca-Cola.
Oh, really?
Oh, we got to find out. Do
Wow.
they definitely don't represent Anheuser or Bud Light?
Yeah, I think they do Domino's too, but yeah, their auto is now just one of the verticals of Do you say Ansira? I say Ansria. I don't know. What's the official way to say that? Is it tomato? Is that what we're?
Probably.
They were saying Ansira, so
Okay.
Who knows? Yeah,
it was good times. Four of us had dinner, talked about a lot of stuff, automotive, non-automotive. Some good male bonding. We called it our men's meeting, which was really cool. So I don't think I'd ever met Tom, and I swear that's the first time I'd ever met Alex, by the way. So
Huh.
maybe we had met at a Google event like years and years and years ago in California, but it was like so fleeting that we probably don't remember seeing
You
each
and I
other.
did.
But yeah, me and you did exactly. You kind of blew me off. I don't know if I've told that story, but
I didn't know it was you.
I have more important people to talk to off to the other side of the room.
I didn't realize it was you. I mean, you've been using the same photo for 20 years. So when you walked up to me, I had no idea. You didn't have that perv face going on. If you'd have smiled at me, I probably would have known.
Yeah, but then you would have had other ideas if I would have smiled at you. So
no.
Right. By the way, Tom says he's going to be watching today. So
who?
Tom Harsha. So if you want to throw him any shout outs or just pick on him, which is even more fun, feel free.
Nah, dude, it was great to hang out with Tom. Tom's a good guy. I mean, we've been working on a few things over the past month and a half with some dealers, and dude, great insight, great knowledge. Obviously at a dealership, knows dealerships, so knows how to communicate with dealers. So speaks the talk that dealers hear, and it's what a lot of vendors are missing out there. So, 22-year-old kid out of college trying to tell a dealer how to do it.
Right. Well, speaking of trying to tell a dealer how to do it, there's that thing called the U.S. government that seems to be doing although they're not really targeting dealers specifically. There's a little fallout here. But why don't we jump right into that one?
Yeah, definitely. I think it affects all SMBs, so small and medium businesses. Dealers, obviously, that's where we sit as far as for our verticals. So we tend to talk more about car dealerships, but it's going to affect all verticals. So which one do you want to go over first?
Well, I just want to point out that we are talking about 4 different things, and we might be talking about them interchangeably. So you've got the Graham Leach Bliley stuff that's come out this summer, along with the FTC safeguards this summer as well, I believe in June. Then you've got the Restrict Act, which is being debated. That's the one that's trying to ban TikTok. It's got far greater implications than that. And then the
Has
other
nothing
one
to do with
that
TikTok.
Drew, you're very much involved in is the what is it? The American Data Privacy. What's the rest of that one?
American Data Privacy and Protection Act.
Protection. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, which is the one that's crushing the cookies.
Yeah.
Explain that one a
So
little bit
you
more.
know, there's on Capitol Hill, there's been a lot of hey, let's rein in big tech. Let's figure out how we're going to make sure that they don't have the power that they have. The American Data and Protection Act is the one that takes the covered entity, which is basically anybody like Google, Facebook, Yahoo, etc., can't collect data, process data. Transfer is limited to what is reasonably necessary and proportionate to, and then it lists a whole bunch of slew of information that you're allowed to transfer. But it basically makes it so digital advertising is, for the most part, null and void. Targeted digital advertising.
Really?
I do a presentation. I've done it a couple of times now, where I show the audience things that I'm interested in, and it shows them things like travel, RVs. I have a Jeep, so it shows them a picture of a Jeep. Financial planning because of my age, and I can't remember. There's something on there as well that's important. It's paying for college because I have 2 kids going to college, and all that data is out there, and it's known about me because of my browsing history, what I've looked at, what I've watched, what articles I've interacted in, what I've searched on search engines, etc. And then I show another slide where things that I'm not interested in is things like I don't need to see ads for diapers. My kids are out of the house. I don't need to see ads for first-time home buyers. I don't need to see ads for minivans. Thank God I don't need a minivan anymore. My kids are driving themselves.
I don't know. You got that perv smile.
Yeah, I got that.
That minivan's a good front.
But so I show those examples, and I'm like, how do you think that advertisers are targeting? They're targeting the ads to the people that are important to them, right? That they want to get their message in front of. A lot of these House bills, the American Data Protection and Privacy Act, and honestly, there's been a slew over them over the past year. There was one that literally was a paragraph long. It was introduced in the House, and it basically said, no digital advertising whatsoever. I'm sorry, no targeted digital advertising whatsoever. So we're basically back in the days of radio and television, spray and pray type mentality. And whether it's that extreme or even the one with the American Data Privacy and Protection Act, a lot of these really hit small and medium businesses the hardest. If I'm Coca-Cola, or if I'm a nationwide ad firm and I'm doing buys, branding and awareness for those ads, it really doesn't affect them. They're not looking for a specific audience, a specific person to actually sell advertising to. We as dealers and as small and medium businesses, we want to target our ads to a specific subset of consumer or specific audience. And I'm sure we try to do it all the time. I have a couple of Cadillac stores. Why would you want a Cadillac Escalade ad for $995 a month to be shown to a consumer that's 24, fresh out of college, making their first job at $40K a year? They're not the intended buyer for that. Yeah, they're not the intended buyer. They're not the intended audience for that kind of vehicle. But right now, we're having to, especially with some of the Facebook restrictions, we're having to now advertise to everybody on Facebook, right? Because we can't narrow down some of those audiences. Now, there's ways to do it. I'm talking kind of broadly here.
Yeah, there's a lot of hoops you need to jump through in order to get to it.
100%. So, and that directly affected the cost of our advertising. Now take that down from a Cadillac dealer, a luxury car brand, to even something like a Chevrolet Traverse or a Nissan Armada or a Titan pickup truck or whatever, right? Those clicks when those I don't know if you tracked it or looked at it, but those costs per clicks were in the $50 range. Targeting Cadillac buyers, certain income levels, certain age group, were $50, let's say, right? Those same clicks now are in the $1.50 range, pushing almost $2 now. By the time you take into account, having to buy the data, upload the data, taking the time to actually add them to it. It's scary that, we are now paying more, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
in the end means what? The consumers are going to pay more, which is, it's
True.
inflationary. It's going to pass, the costs are going to be passed along to the consumer in the end. So, it's
It
a
always does.
bad, it's a bad thing for the United States and small and medium.
What's the reason to implement something like this and to get rid of such drilled down targeted marketing?
I think it's a lack of knowledge in the by the legislators, by the people on the Hill. I think it's I think there's a lot of animosity to certain groups and certain sizes of businesses in the United States. One of them specifically has, and I can't remember the exact dollar amount, but I think it's like, if your revenue exceeds $5 billion or something, well, there's not many companies digitally that exceed $5 billion that are in advertising. So you're targeting the big 4 or 5 of them. And again, whether that's 5 billion, 10 billion, or whatever. So, I think the news and society has perpetrated so many very unique individual stories about, this happened to me, or, I'm a protected class and I'm not being advertised, or I am being advertised too. That scares me. So rather than take a fine line and a very surgical approach to writing these laws, they're taking sledgehammers and they're basically just hitting it and spraying it. Oh yeah, that'll work. Okay, we'll try that. Okay, hitting it and spraying it. Okay, do that. One of those presentations, what was interesting that I did one of those presentations, and I was showing some of the custom advertising that we do. And one of the businesses besides automotive that I do is it's a small dress shop. It's a boutique dress shop. It's located in the Southeast. And their audience with dresses is typically what? It's typically females. So, before we were doing the advertising, or before they actually looked at the advertising for us, they were just, again, spray and praying type mentality, right? A couple of things we did was we took the advertising down to, hey, regardless of where you stand, mostly women wear dresses. So, that's the audience that you're actually going to be targeting to.
Well, if you watch the news these days, you might not feel that way.
Exactly. But here's the importance of some of those stats, right? So the average click-through rate, or CTR, across all industries on Facebook, I think, is 0.9%, right? For apparel, clothing, et cetera, it's 1.24%. By using targeted advertising and targeting women over the age of 30 in a certain income level, because these are not necessarily inexpensive dresses. It's a boutique shop, but by using targeted advertising, we were able to take that click-through rate to 3.07%. That's triple the average, and more than what is that, time and a half times what a fashion industry or what a fashion ad is. So, some stats as far as for how that relates to the business, and I can go back to some car dealers as well. But just for this dress shop, it's and this is a quote from them, right? So this is what they actually said. So, Facebook page advertising has helped us earn 106% increase in traffic and an 82% increase in first-time customers. Our growth strategy, especially for our live sales, depend on utilizing awareness driven through these campaigns. And that was one of the owners of the company. They need digital advertising. They need targeted digital advertising. If not, that's stuff like that's no longer going to be available to them. And now it's going to cost them more.
I mean, the more
now they're
Facebook,
saying we can't. Go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say, ever since the Cambridge Analytica issues with Facebook back in the was the Obama election. I think it was his last one. Is how far that goes back. But
I think you're right.
Trump, wasn't it?
Well, it got exacerbated with the
Yeah. Yes.
2016
Exactly.
election. Yeah,
Yeah.
so didn't everything.
100%.
But the Cambridge Analytica was the really, if there was a stake in the ground to say this is when it all started to get, looked at hard. That was it. And so Facebook has been uh, sort of genericizing their targeting ever since, and it's getting more and more difficult to target anyone. I mean, LinkedIn is a great place you can do with, and I'm hearing, as much as it pains me to say this, but TikTok is actually getting really good for being able to hit the right people at the right time. Um,
We have some dealers on TikTok, and we do some targeted advertising. And we're not talking about thousands of dollars. We're talking about, I have dealers that spend $250. I have a couple of dealers that spend $500. And I have one dealer where we're really effective at it. We slowly increase that budget from a couple $100. Now they're spending all the way up to $1,000. It's definitely a way to get your message in front of the consumer. And again, it's a way to get your message in front of a consumer based on a targeted audience. And that's what's most important. Again, if we're a Cadillac dealer, we don't want to have a 25-year-old making $40K a year seeing our ad. If we're a dress shop, we don't want a male in his mid-30s looking, or basically we don't want to be paying for him to see our
you don't want to
dresses.
target me, is what you're saying.
I don't want to target Alex. I don't want to target Jeff.
I don't know.
You might look good in one of those dresses. But again, they've taken the one or two bad actors in the industry, and they exacerbate it and said, rather than going after and rather than making those bad actors pay and putting regulatory compliance in for those bad actors or people to abuse the system, they're basically saying, hey, we're just gonna cover it in one fell swoop. And that's not how it should be. That's not how it should be to affect small business.
It's a cop out on
No,
accountability.
it shouldn't be that way. Of course.
100%.
I mean, it's our culture now. We're unwilling to punish the real arbitrator of the issue, and more willing to make everyone pay instead.
Yeah, 100%.
So with the clothing example, like, why would someone be against that? Like, what's the reverse of that?
I go back to the education. Going back to that presentation, I've had a couple of staffers from Capitol Hill, so not the actual senators or congressmen, but just their staffers. And during the presentation, you get to certain slides where you can see their eyes are like, oh, that's how it works. Oh, isn't that interesting? And kind of a and I go through like 5 or 6 examples in there. Car dealers, I have a realtor as well. I have a lawyer that we're doing targeted advertising, that kind of stuff on. And in every case, it's like, oh my gosh, that actually makes total sense. You're not abusing the data that's available to you. You're making sure that your spend is appropriate for the size of the business, which is exactly what we want, right? So I think it's more education. I think it's more explaining to your congressmen and your senators that, hey, this is how it's going to affect me. This is why it's going to affect me, and this is why you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Don't mess with me. Mess with the people that abuse and take advantage of the data that's out there. Make regulatory compliance for them. And
what's an example of someone
that?
No, I was going to ask, what's an example of someone of making use of the data in an illegal or nefarious way?
The biggest one that probably people are aware of is Cambridge Analytica. On a smaller scale, and you see a couple of these cases come through every now and then, is predatory attacking of consumers in certain credit classes or certain ethnicities.
Uh-huh.
Here's I want to go ahead.
I was going to say a great example was actually served to me this morning. I was on a call with Brian Kramer, who was Refresh Friday guest a few times over at AccuTrade, cars.com. And he was telling me about how a store got fined pretty hard and had to make changes for a year, where somehow a lawsuit was brought against them, and they were basically found guilty. Although it's still questionable how they were even able to do this. But apparently, they were giving better credit rates to Jewish people over Spanish-speaking people.
There you go.
Mm.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, imagine taking that one step further with digital advertising and targeting the Jewish community, which you can do, right? I can go online and find communities and target Jewish individuals with ads that are rated better, APR rates, whatever, lease rates, whatever, to those Jewish people, and then targeting Hispanic individuals with different APRs and different lease rates just because of their ethnic class, which
Gotcha.
that's horrible.
Okay.
I agree with that 100%.
Well,
That should not be allowed. We should not do that. And the better way than trying to regulate all advertising is to go after those bad actors, make them
Correct.
pay for what they've
Yeah.
done, make an example out of them, slap them with fees and fines and jail time that no one's ever going to want to do it again, right? Here's a great example of using ethnic-based ads for positive, right? A plastic surgeon, he's located in probably a 40% African American type community. He's a Cuban American, but he's very white, right? So he looks like a white doctor. But all the plastic surgeon ads that we were seeing in the area were based off of your blonde-haired, blue-eyed, typical 45-year-old female. Right, and he was having a hard time getting African American dark colored skinned individuals to come to his office. We segmented out the audiences, by ethnicity, and targeted African American clientele with pictures and before and afters of other African Americans, other dark skinned individuals. That's not a bad thing, right? People want to see how it's going to affect them personally, right? We didn't have any nefarious backdoor type ways or what we were trying to do with that data. We were just trying to make it more personalized to the consumer, And again, a facelift for a white person and a facelift for a dark-skinned person, the cost is exactly the same. So there was nothing going on there as far as.
Well, and that's when the cost is different. That's when you get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
100%. Yes.
And
but I'm with you. Go after the company or the people that are taking advantage of that, versus just punishing everybody.
100%.
And
I close it.
It's a follow up.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say as a follow up to that story Brian was telling me this morning, what they did find that in the dealership, they did figure it out. When a customer walked in, they would ask them before they quoted a payment, what do you think your credit score is on a scale of 1 to 10? And what they found was that the Jewish community was saying, oh, I'm a 10. And the Spanish-speaking community was saying, oh, I'm a 5, I'm a 6. And then they were making their first pass based on a higher interest rate because of the 5 or the 6, right? And then eventually
That's shady.
It wasn't that they were trying to. It's just, somebody thought that was a good process.
Not a good idea.
Right.
That's horrible. That's someone using, that's someone using data or an individual's race and their ethnicity negatively. That's horrible, man. Black, white, brown, whatever, male, female.
Yeah.
I don't care.
No, but they were asking every customer this. They weren't specifically asking.
Yeah,
it's hard to tell who's Jewish. That's how do you know that one? And somebody just walks in. Do you ask them? No, they were just asking every customer that same question. But
as long as they're asking everybody, I guess it's
Yeah, no, that was their standard practice. They weren't targeting anyone specifically.
Yeah. But that's what causes all these issues, because one person comes up and they go, "Oh, this isn't right." They don't really look at it. They don't look at all the nuances and stuff that go into it. They see how it affects them. They come up with their own conclusion, and then they try and move forward with the complaint.
So, on that, one of the things I was reading up on before the show about the American Data Privacy and Protection Act is there is some language that's in there now that shows that individuals can't go after the business on this one. They have to take it through the state attorney's office.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the actual legal side.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
Again, do you if I'm Google and you abuse now, obviously that's the big one. But if I'm Google and you're abusing my data as a consumer, do you think it's appropriate to go through the state AG?
hmm.
I don't know. That's out of my lane of knowledge. But personally, my personal opinion, I don't think so. But
So, I mean, the goal of having that language in here, I happen to have it in front of me, although this is a very long bit of text because it's part of a bill.
Could you? Oh my God! Could you? It was insane the first time I read through that, and I read line by line. I retained probably 5% of it.
Yeah, so it's meant to protect the small to medium businesses from getting whopped with a ton of lawsuits. So the AG can then decide, okay, there's enough of these, we can go prosecute this business for it. So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Don't agree with that. But yeah, I mean, yeah. There's also language in there. They talk about a DSP and a buy-sell relationship, and that's part of the problem with Google, seeing both sides of the coins. They're the buyer and the seller of the advertising. They buy the ad placement and then they sell the ad placement. There's some language in there, and if you really read through it, you'd look at, hey, they want a broker type relationship where there's a middleman that's actually going to be, on behalf of the business that actually is going to go out and buy. If you don't think middlemen create additional markup and additional costs, you're smoking something, because that's exactly what they do.
Yeah.
So especially in a case like this where it's an auction type system. I as a business can choose how much I want to pay. Now I have to choose how much I want to pay through a third party. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. They've talked about in the bill, if they have to divest themselves from the DSP and the server side of it, to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And again, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense to me as an individual, and probably 99% of the people in the United States and 99% of the small business owners in the United States are honest, care about the community, care about the people that they help and service, care about, their reputation as a business owner. And I think they do the right thing. I think they're mounting out of a molehill to punish the 1%. And that's, but it's punishing everybody instead of just the 1%.
Right. So I liked your
at the end of that presentation. It's kind of weird again to talk about education, but I go through and I say, hey, don't hurt small businesses. And the very last line in big bold, I say, and please don't show me diaper ads. That's obviously the number one thing I don't want to see. I don't need diaper ads. But honestly, if
you're only a few more years away from that, Drew.
Oh, no.
Those are for you.
Oh, no. At least 10 years away from the grandma. What are you talking about?
But I did like your synopsis on, like, the reason a lot of this is happening is because of a lack of education on these topics amongst our legislators. So if you watch, there's so much fun to watch, because I know everyone watches.
I know what you're going to bring up.
Well, there's many. So it goes back to the when they had Zuckerberg up, they had Twitter, they've had any of these congressional hearings. You listen to some of these Congress people and some of these senators, and they are just talking out their ass. They don't know what they're saying.
God, yeah.
No.
You can tell too, the ones that basically take the readings from a staffer, like the comments from a staffer, and they're really just reading the paragraphs that their staffer wrote. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, these people, your constituents elected you to do a job, and you're not even educating yourself on the job that you're trying to do and trying to accomplish. to me, that's laziness more than anything else. If I'm going to take an appointment on a committee, if I'm going to be interviewing somebody, if I'm going to be asking questions relating to the business and the laws that I'm going to write that affect that business, I need to be educated enough to actually know what I'm talking about. And if we threw out a number, I'd say probably 20% of them actually do logistically the background work. The other 80% of them rely on their 20 or 30 staff members to do it for them and kind of give them direction, which, especially for something as important as this, it needs to be them involved themselves.
There's just more reason in my mind that we need to give the Constitution more power again. We've taken so much of it away, given it away to the federal government. And what the Constitution originally put forth was that the federal government was really a place to dispute issues between states and to be something that negotiated with foreign powers. Beyond that, it wasn't a highly empowered institution. The states held all the power. But the federal government's got so big that they're just
biggest it's ever been.
Yeah, it's the biggest employer of American citizens, right?
Mm-hmm. And, I think what a lot of that is caused by is crisis. I mean, we look at World War, we look at Depression. Those are all times in history where the federal power, started getting or gave them more power because we were like, oh my God, we can't do this as an individual. Let's kind of work together and try to get it done. And then that crisis passed, and we're like, oh, we need to take that power back on.
Never get it back.
And then the next crisis happens, and same thing happens over. And look at COVID. The same exact thing.
Yep. Well, look at 9/11 with the Patriot Act.
Oh,
we've never gotten anything back. It's only gotten worse.
Still have to take off our shoes.
Wait.
Yeah.
If they pass the Restrict Act, that'll be the one that's.
That's Patriot Act 2.0. Yeah.
That's far worse.
I just hope people are aware of it. Because they all think it's just to ban TikTok. It has nothing to do with TikTok.
Well, that's how the propagandists are spinning it. I mean, the media.
Yeah, I think we are so polarized politically. Are we doing Dealer Refresh or are we doing Politic Refresh? Because just making sure.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I mean, this is all affecting the dealer world too.
It's all affecting. That's right.
But I think we're so polarized on the issues that are put in front of us by probably not the best players in the industry. That are making us infight between each other, the people that agree or disagree. And, we're so polarized on that fight that we tend to dismiss like, oh, they'll figure it out. And if the law is written, if this bill does passes in the House, then we'll just figure it out. We're not as involved as we should be because we're looking over here rather than looking at what's right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Or let the lawyers figure it out later.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ultimately.
I've been involved in 2 lawsuits, and the only people that ever made any money off of those lawsuits were the lawyers. So.
Yep.
It's usually how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. However, I think these new pieces that are coming out in June, Graham Bleach Liley and FTC safeguards, the only way to clear up some of the vagaries that are within those legislative pieces are going to be through lawsuits. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny. So a good segue into CDPs or customer data platforms or whatever the acronym is they're now using to describe those. Have you looked at any of the CDP legal verbiage that are in those contracts that we're signing?
No, I just looked at the software.
There's no indemnification whatsoever, right? So yeah, they don't indemnify you as a business. They're giving you a platform to use as a business, but if something happens, it's still your responsibility as a business, unless you can prove that probably they were the ones that were at fault for it. But yeah, no indemnification. My opinions on CDP is CDPs are there, right? Because the CRMs failed us. It was supposed to be our DMS and our CRM was supposed to be the ultimate data source for consumers in our database.
Mm-hmm.
A CRM should do exactly what a CDP does, but the problem is that we as businesses, rather than say, hey, and CRMs, I think, Alex, you've talked about the CRMs in the automotive industry are relatively inexpensive to compare to what's out there in the general market for other types of businesses, right? But if we as
Mm-hmm.
dealerships would say, hey, I'm willing to spend, instead of $2,500, I'm willing to spend $3,000 a month for my CRM or whatever, right? And sort of integrate the CDP platform in it. But now we're having I've said this before, and I'm sure you guys have heard. I call them AFDs. It's another fucking dashboard. We're going to have a consumer data platform employee in the businesses that manages that
Yep.
data. And because the CDP doesn't talk to the CRM, which doesn't talk to the CMS or the DMS, now if we opt out the consumer on the consumer data platform, now we're going to have to make sure that the consumer is opted out of the CRM.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're downloading or allowing a third party to access our DMS to do our mailers and our emails and our remarketing and all those kind of things, now we're going to have to make sure that's opted out as well. It's a complete cluster. Though the DMS
It already is.
ones that have failed us, and now we're having to buy another bolt-on to use in our industry. It's horrible.
Stupid.
Well, Randall Baker had a comment earlier about the California, and I'll throw it back up here, approach with the CCPA. So the consumer can ask for their data to be deleted. And I believe there's some components in this new American Data Privacy and Protection Act that have some of that in there too, which think about that for a minute. So now I'm a customer. I'm in the CRM, the DMS. I'm probably in the website backend tool because I submitted a lead. Then there's maybe I chatted. I'm in the chat tool. Let's see, what else would I be in? Maybe
In
there's an
the
appraisal
follow-up
tool that my
you're
name's
using a
attached
separate
to.
appraisal tool.
What if I submitted a lead through Auto Trader? I'm
What
in
if
the
I submit
auto.
a lead through GOV? Even though I'm on my dealer's website, I still got the information now is out with the chat provider or
Right.
Podium or any one of them. You look at every single plugin that's on a dealership's website that's not within the core of the website provider, and there's every vendor that you have to interact with when you get a delete or an opt-out request at that point. Yeah, you need to hire somebody full-time now. That's all their job is going to be.
So, I mean, one of the things that my company, we've been talking about doing things off the DMS data. It could potentially be that, there are opt-out codes in DMS. We do get those. And, maybe the DMS could be that central repository for housing that kind of thing. That does get, the chat tool might not necessarily pick that up.
Yeah.
And the website tool would
Again,
have to use DMS for inventory. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And all these systems don't talk to each other. Whether if it's dude, here a great example, right? CDK and eLeads, right? Owned by who? Who's eLeads owned by now? Right?
CDK.
Have they worked on any type of opt-out integration or data cleansing or moving data from the DMS to the CRM and vice versa? Anything that you do in the CRM is still not pushed back to the DMS on a regular basis.
Nope.
They can do NCOAs. I know DealerSocket and eLead and all can do NCOAs to update the addresses, but that address and information is typically only updated in the CRM. It doesn't push back to the DMS. Why? Why don't they talk to each other? And now we're going to bring in another
great question.
Now we're going to bring in another platform. So that person, again, you have to go into the CDP, opt out the consumer, maybe hit the delete button or maybe hit the don't export button. Then we go back to the CRM, do the same thing. Then we go back to the DMS and do the same. We're going to do the same thing 3 times. Technology was supposed to save us time in this industry, not create more work for us. Exactly.
It's only created more work.
Yep. It's definitely gotten more complex. That's for sure.
It's a huge amount of complexity.
I always just think about something my uncle said to me years ago, where he said that back when he first got in the business, you could like get on your bike basically and be on the road, and if your chain fell off, you could just get off your bike and put the chain back on at your leisure and get back on, and you probably wouldn't miss anything. You'd still get to your destination. He's making a metaphor for business here. And he said now you're still on your 10-speed bike, except you're pedaling on the interstate. Everyone else has a car. They're flying past you. And if your chain falls off the bike, you can't stop pedaling. You have to like bend over and put the chain back on while you're still trying to move forward. And he said that's the state of the industry now.
Who do I need? Who do I need to reference?
That's Steve Snyder, checkered flag.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, that analogy hits me a lot. Comes to mind often. So, yeah.
So you were saying earlier you spent some time in DC. You got some dates coming up. What's that in reference to?
Second week of May, we're going to be going out and talking to senators and congressmen. I'm going to represent Arizona along with a couple of other small businesses, and go to Capitol Hill. Basically, talk down. So, my senators are Sinema and Kelly. Mark Kelly and Kirsten Sinema. So, hopefully, talk to them. If not, talk to them, their staffers. But again, make them aware of how it's going to affect small and medium businesses in the United States. The regulatory compliance, the costs that are going to ultimately have to be passed on to the consumer. And in a lot of cases, if I can't target people over 35 that make over $80,000 a year for my Escalade, or women over the age of 30 for my dresses, it's going to drastically affect my business. Mm-hmm. It's going to hurt. It's going to make it so it's going to make it a lot harder to do targeted advertising. And that's, when the internet first came about, and we're talking, whatever amount of years ago. I don't want to admit how old I am. But
whenever Al Gore did it.
Yeah. It was, but yeah,
27 years ago.
There you go. But it was supposed to create efficiencies. It was supposed to create ways to get in front of a consumer in a different way. We moved towards targeted advertising on the internet. It changed a multitude of businesses, allowed tons of businesses to pop up all over the United States to serve other small businesses and ultimately serve the consumer. And they're basically taking that away. Mm-hmm. It's amazing that me as a local mom and pop shop located in Arizona can put out advertising that's going to target a consumer in Washington State, right? And I can then put that product in a box and then ship it to them, right? But the only reason I'm willing to spend money in Washington State is why? Because I can use targeted advertising to get my message in front of that consumer.
Yeah.
I think the numbers, and I don't have the rest of the states, but I think the numbers in the state of Arizona is it's 250,000 jobs are either directly or indirectly tied into some type of internet-based advertising. That's a huge. They're going to be affected.
Are there any big?
No, sorry.
Are there any big companies that want this to go down? And if so, what would be the reasoning behind it?
I've read the list of the corporate entities and the NGOs and the government organizations that actually back this kind of bill. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but it is a very one-sided bunch of individuals that support it.
And does NADA lend any support in this?
No, I haven't seen anything from NADA, at least on a national level. It's kind of funny. I've actually, it should. I've actually reached out to some vendors in our industry, ones that do advertising and digital advertising. And this was probably like 6 months ago when I first got involved, trying to get input and backing And hey, what is your opinion? Give me some, load my lips. How did it affect you as a business? That's how I got some of the examples that I put in my presentation. And it was amazing that on the automotive side, I did not get a lot of feedback other than, yeah, we'll look into it. Or, right now we don't have an opinion. Well, dude, get your opinion. Help us out. You're supposed to be our partner in this as a vendor. We're supposed to have a relationship, and you're not helping us with our voices to be heard.
Yeah, they should definitely be involved.
Yeah, there's NIADA too. It would be, and we could help make some connections to that one. They're sponsors of DealerRefresh. So.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Yeah, be happy to do that.
So, here, I'll give you a couple of resources. Obviously, you can go to Google and just type in internet advertising bills in Congress. You'll get a list of all the stupid ones, from the ones that just did away with internet advertising all the way to the American Data Protection and Privacy Act. A couple of ways you can get involved if you're an auto dealer. Obviously, go to your local, for me, it'd be Arizona Automobile Dealers Association. Go to your state association. If you're an independent dealer, go to your independent association. Contact NADA, see what they're doing, see how they're going to, help us lobby on the Hill. If you want to get involved, there is actually a website. It's called internetforgrowth.com. That's internetforgrowth.com. Mm-hmm. That is it's a coalition of small and medium businesses all across the United States, from, Silly's Cupcakes, which is, a business that does homemade cupcakes and sells to consumers, which is drastically going to be affected by targeted advertising, all the way up to car dealerships and advertising agencies and a few of the other people, dress shops, lawyers, realtors. It's a plethora of small and medium businesses that are going to be affected by this kind of advertising law that might take effect if it's passed in Congress.
Right.
And you're out there helping fight it, man.
I would assume that companies like Facebook and Google would be in favor of this, because it would force you to spend more, because you have to touch a broader audience in order to touch the ones that you really want to touch. And
there are, you can tell when you read the press releases from some of the big 2 or 3 digital advertising sources out there, you can tell that they're picking and choosing what they actually like. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with they would actually like us not to have targeted advertising. I think Google and Facebook and some of the DSPs out there actually like the fact that we can drill down to our target audience, because it creates efficiencies. It's think about it this way: if I'm going to news websites are typically they're free because they are ad based, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm going to a news website and I'm reading an article and I see an ad for diapers, it's not really going to be effective. I'm not going to click on the ad, which means that publisher is actually going to lose out on business.
Yeah, but if Facebook wasn't in favor of being more targeted and precise, then why did they move away from being more targeted and precise over 10 years ago?
Cambridge Analytica, that was more of a...
Yeah, but wouldn't they be pushing their way back towards being more efficient if efficiency worked for them?
And this is a personal opinion. I don't have the data behind this, but my personal opinion is they don't want the public backlash right now. They don't want to... There's so many other things going on.
So they are giant pansies.
Exactly. There you go. Thank you. That's the most concise way to say it. They are giant pansies.
Yeah. Well, Drew, anything else you want to tackle that's nice and lighthearted? Like, how are EVs and OEMs doing for you?
So do you want my personal opinion, or do you want my public PR good opinion?
Personal opinion.
Is this a rhetorical question?
You know, regardless of what side, dude. Okay, yes, global warming is real. I understand that. You know, I also believe that some of the science out there, you know, that we are in a cyclical stage of warming. Can we prove that 2,000 years ago that it was as warm? No one knew readings back then. You know, we can try to look at core samples and everything else, but uh, so yes, I think action needs to be taken. I think that government overreach is again trying to push us down a path that we as a nation can't support yet, right? You look at the costs of EVs, which aren't coming down. I posted the
Well, the Teslas
posted.
are.
Yeah, but Tesla already had a great margin relative, so so on a per unit basis. But EVs aren't coming down. I canceled my truck order because of the cost of
Oh,
the
did you?
increase.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Kept going
been
up, what,
ridiculous.
$10,000 every 6 months?
yeah. So mine went from a $40,000 pickup truck to was it close to a $60,000 pickup truck now, and that's even if I can get that model, which is not going to be available to the general public for 2 years. So
Wow.
I was like, yeah, 40 grand. I'll try something. I'll drive it around for a while, and if not, I'll just turn around and sell it. I'll take the loss. But
Yeah.
especially now in the economy right now, there's no way. And also, as I've been, it's interestingly enough, I asked my youngest. My youngest is she's about 9 months into driving. Yeah, almost a year now, let's say, right? And I asked her, I'm like, hey, we can go out and get you an EV, and you'd be the first one in the family. And you know what she asked me? She asked me if, hey, Dad, if I come home and forget to plug the thing in, she goes, what happens? I'm like, if you forget to plug the thing in, I go, you're not going very far the next morning. I go, so we're going to be dropping you off at school. Or you're going to be taking the bus. And then she said, she goes, well, what if my sister forgets to fill up her car with gas? I go, well, on the way to school in the morning, she stops at the gas station, takes 10 minutes, fills up her car, and then continues on her way to school. She goes, yeah, I don't want an EV. I want a gas vehicle. So
That's a smart girl.
I don't know. That's a way to break it down.
I get I get the EV push. I get the EV movement, but we're not in a situation right now where we can take the
No, we're not.
hours, 45 minutes to an hour sitting and doing a quick charge and only getting 70% of my battery back to pulling into a gas station and filling up and getting a pack of donuts and being on the road. I last two Thanksgiving, actually no, last Thanksgiving, two Thanksgivings. Thanksgiving, we were out camping. We camp out near Quartzsite, Arizona. It's around the border between California and Arizona. There's a Tesla supercharging stations, whatever they call. It started with like 5 or 6, and now I think it's up to 25 or 30 different charging stations there. It's right next to a Carl's Jr. Right? Thanksgiving, we're riding our dirt bikes, riding around. We pull up by this Carl's Jr. and there's a line of people out from the Carl's Jr. all the way. All the charging stations are full. Just for shits and giggles, I go to the last person in the line and I say, hey, I go, how long have you been here? She goes, I've been here for about 45 minutes. And she goes, and by the time I get up there, it's going to take me another, however, an hour to an hour and a half to actually charge my vehicle. Now, this is the only charging station between California and Arizona, major cities, right? Right in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. Apparently, everyone else had the exact same example. And right across the street is a huge Love or QT, I can't remember. And there's cars pulling in and filling up their, SUVs and their Chevy Malibu.
I'd have been standing over there laughing at them.
Oh my God, dude! It was like she goes, "I am rethinking this whole EV thing," and she made the comment too that it's not the fact that she can't find charging in her local city. It's the fact of when she does leave her house. Obviously, her house, she has her own plug-in. But when she leaves her house, again, if she forgot to charge, she has to make sure that she's going to a place that's going to have a charger available for her. And if she gets there and the chargers are unavailable, then she's coming down, at work or whatever on her lunch hour, praying to God that somebody's opened up and she's actually able to plug her vehicle in, move her vehicle into the charging area, and charge her vehicle. Yeah. The infrastructure is not there yet in the United States, just based on those couple of anecdotal evidences. It's not available in the United States. Not even taking into account how are we going to generate all this electricity. I know that gets talked about. I know there's opinions on both sides, but any reasonable person can do the math and say that we do not have enough infrastructure based on green energy development to push
Yeah.
the amount of electricity that we need in the United States. So we're going to have to think of other ways to generate that electricity. I'm a nuclear guy. Sorry, I think nuclear is the way to go. I don't know why we ever gave up nuclear. We had this beautiful nuclear power plant in Southern California, San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station. They closed it down, regulatory compliance, all kinds of other things. They lost the lease with the state of California. I know there's a few other things in there as well. But dude, closed down, didn't replace it. We'd be leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else if we would have allowed nuclear energy to proliferate just a little bit more.
People were just afraid of that word.
Oh, they saw 3 Mile Island, they saw Chernobyl, they saw Hiroshima when blew it up during World War II.
That's what I'm saying. They're afraid of the word.
Yeah, there's so many safeguards. Nuclear energy, I think, is one of the most safest, cleanest, and easiest ways to get massive amounts of energy in a short amount of time. Yeah, I can't read the name. I think it's Randall. Dude, battery replacement. Oh my God, don't even get me started. Yeah, I'd love to buy a $25,000 car and then, 6 years later, spend another $20,000 to replace the battery on a 6 or 7-year-old car. Dude.
Well, I'll tell you, you'd think we were ready for it. I mean, Mercedes just introduced 4 new models. We've got 4 different EVs on the lot. I think we've got more different models than any other manufacturer right now.
Yeah. I'm all for EV development. I'm all for the manufacturers doing
hybrids. Come on, OEMs, hybrids.
I'm all for I love hybrids. If you want the hybrid model, that'd be awesome. But again, base it on consumer demand, not what the government's shoving down our throats, right? You have to do this. This is what we want you to do. We're going to make regulatory compliance that all vehicles have to be EVs by X date. All energy has to be generated green by this date. We're going to give tax credits, which, oh my God, I hate tax credits, especially for the fact that we're doing them on EV vehicles.
They just pulled some of that back.
Yeah, they did. But we're subsidizing production of vehicles that most consumers don't want, but the few that do want might be buying because it might benefit. I don't know. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to
me. No. All these things are quite hypocritical.
I think we would know by now.
So the whole point of that is wrapping it all up, right? Because I know we're almost out of time here, but get involved, right? If you're not now, get involved. Do the research yourself. Don't take a polar left, polar right type view. Do the research yourself. Get involved with your state level House and Senate. Get involved with your federal level House and Senate. Write letters. The FTC laws. I don't know if you're aware, but every time they publish a ruling through the FTC, it's open for public comment.
For 6 months, right?
For the amount of people that are in the United States, and a majority of them have internet access, it's surprising few how many comments end up getting posted on some of those articles. You need to tell your elected representatives and your appointed representatives, like the bozos over at the FTC, what you think as a consumer and, more important, a United States citizen.
How do you know these things are really coming out? Because they don't actually get coverage until they're hitting the floors. That's the,
sign up for, again, getting the Internet for Growth I recommended. They send out alerts and information. Sign up for the FTC alerts. I mean, it may be a lot to read in your inbox, but schedule yourself 30 minutes a day maybe to just read through these and filter out the ones that don't apply to you, or actually comment on the ones that don't apply to you. It's not that hard to get involved, and it really we're so we're so me now. We don't look past and we don't look forward and we don't think outside. So take 30 minutes a day, man. It's not that hard to be involved.
Good advice.
It's a great note to end it on. Perfect.
Yep. Well, thank you, Drew.
No problem, guys.
Yeah, Drew, it's always a pleasure. Appreciate you coming on.
One of these days, Jeff, we're gonna have to go out to dinner, man, because you have a lot to make up for ditching me in California at Google.
Yes, we'll do that. Well, you gave me the dates for DC. I'm going to check the calendar and see if I can make it happen.
Yeah. Yep, all right, that'd be awesome. Cool. Awesome. You guys have a great day, man.
All right, guys.
Enjoy.
See ya.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Have a great weekend.